Thanks to its top-notch gaming performance, the Ryzen 9 7950X3D has become a popular choice amongst enthusiasts who want the absolute best. With its 16 cores, the 7950X3D is also perfect for those who work on CPU-demanding applications and need an alternative to super expensive Intel Xeons and AMD Threadrippers. Unlike those CPUs that prioritize multi-threaded performance at the cost of single-threaded performance, which is more important for gaming, the Ryzen 9 7950X3D keeps up with the 7800X3D. The focus of this PC was to get the absolute best possible combination of parts without worrying too much about the budget. It is still more affordable than high-end workstation PCs while keeping up with them in productivity and beating them in gaming. Starting with the cooler, I went straight for the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360. The 7950X3D is a very easy chip to cool, and the Liquid Freezer 2 offers way more cooling than needed. To build a strong base and prepare for any sorts of CPU upgrades, I needed to go with one of the absolute best motherboards for AM5. So I went with the MSI MPG X670E Carbon Wi-Fi. It has everything that a top-end AM5 motherboard should have, including a perfect rear I/O, great PCIe slot options, and a powerful 18-phase VRM configuration that is way more than any CPU would need. I went with this board instead of something like the MSI Meg X670E Ace, as it does almost everything that the Ace does at a substantially lower price. With the money saved on the motherboard, I put it into the SSD because I wanted to do something a bit more special. Since this is clearly a high-end PC with all of the latest bleeding-edge parts, it makes sense to step up and get a PCIe 5.0 SSD. My choice is the MSI SPATIUM M570 HS 2TB because it is the fastest Gen 5 M2 SSD and has a DRAM cache. I chose this SSD specifically as this PC is also intended for productivity, and the blazing fast reads and writes will help immensely when moving extremely large files. If this PC was purely for gaming, then a Gen 4 SSD would have been more than enough. Additionally, I added a secondary drive, the Samsung 990 Pro 4TB, which is the absolute best Gen 4 SSD, and it has a lot of space for games and applications. I went with a secondary Gen 4 SSD because they offer twice the capacity of Gen 5 SSDs at the same price. It's not just the SSDs that are overkill. I also went quite overkill on the power supply for this PC. I went with the Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 13, specifically the 1600 watt 80 plus titanium unit. Even under extremely ruthless conditions where both the CPU and GPU are being pushed to their limits, they will barely use half of the Dark Power Pro 13's capacity. I chose this PSU because I want it to outlast this PC, and while an 850 or 1000 watt PSU would have been more than enough, having so much headroom ensures that everything in the system remains in peak condition. Speaking of peak conditions, for the graphics card, there is only one GPU for this over-the-top build, and it is, of course, the NVIDIA RTX 4090, which is still the absolute best GPU for gaming and productivity. There simply isn't anything like the 4090. It can do everything from playing games at 4K Ultra settings with ray tracing, perform complex simulations, 3D rendering, and 8K video editing. I chose the MSI SUPRIM Liquid X GeForce RTX 4090 variant, since I still cannot find a variant of the RTX 4090 that is overall better than the SUPRIM Liquid X. For the RAM, the Corsair Dominator Titanium 64GB kit strikes a great balance. While many recommend getting the fastest possible RAM kit for productivity, 6,000 megatransfers per second at CL30 offers great speed and operating stability at the same time. Lastly, the Lian Li O11 Dynamic Evo is my case of choice. In its own way, it represents the flexibility of this PC. Lian Li made a huge effort to make the O11 as customizable as possible, and the arrangements are truly limitless. Besides good ventilation, you can orient the entire PC either normally or upside down. Even the GPU can be completely vertically mounted onto the rear of the case, and since this is a dual-chamber case, all the cables and the PSU are hidden in the back while the rest of the PC can be shown off in full. My only complaint with this case is that as it is trying to do everything at the same time, the design on the outside comes off a bit outdated. Newer cases like the NZXT H6 Flow offer a lot of features of the O11 Dynamic Evo with a more modern design. Looking past that, the case grants you total freedom to assemble your PC in any way you'd like. In conclusion, if you are looking for a PC that is ready to handle pretty much everything and still has a great upgrade path into the future, then this PC should do it. At around $4,800, it is hard to find anything else that offers this much power and flexibility to do everything in a single system.